My name is Elena. I'm 34 years old. I live in San Diego, the kind of place where everything is always a little too sunny, even when your world is falling apart. To most people, I'm put together. I run a boutique marketing firm. I have a nice apartment near the beach. I wear pressed blazers, post vacation photos with clever captions, and bring charcuterie boards to every family event. I smile. A lot. Not because I'm always happy, but because, well, somewhere along the line, smiling became my armor. I don't think people realize how exhausting it is to be the reliable one, the easy daughter, the girl who never complains. At home, my brother Aaron was the star, golden boy, the charming one, the risk taker. My mom used to call me her steady hand. She meant it as a compliment, but it always sounded like a job. Like I wasn't someone to love, just someone to lean on. Even at work, I'm the one people come to when they need things fixed. Not celebrated, not noticed, just useful. And for a while, I told myself that was enough. That if I was dependable, people would have to see me, right? It was Aaron's wedding that cracked something open in me. Not all at once, but slowly. Like water seeping through a wall you didn't know had been hollowed out for years. The wedding was at a vineyard north of Napa. Elegant, expensive, curated to perfection. My parents were glowing. His fiancée, Jenna, a tech investor's daughter, was everything my mom had hoped for in a daughter-in-law. They didn't ask me to help plan anything, didn't ask me to speak, didn't even save me a front row seat. I sat at table 14, next to someone's college roommate and a guy who kept calling me Ellen. No one corrected him, not even Aaron. I laughed it off. Of course I did. That's what I do. But when I got up to take a walk just to clear my head, I heard it. My name, not Ellen. Elena. And the voice, deep, unfamiliar, said something that would change everything. Wait, you're the founder? I turned around. He was tall, clean-cut, probably mid-40s, the kind of man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom or on the cover of Forbes if he smiled more. I'm sorry, I said, caught off guard. Do I know you? He extended his hand. Patrick Walters. I'm Aaron's boss. Or, well, I was until he quit last month. Then he smiled. But forget about him for a second. I've heard your name before. At a startup panel Jenna spoke at. You're the founder of Bloomshift, right? That marketing firm for impact brands? I nodded, slowly. No one at that wedding had said my name like that. With curiosity. With respect. Not even my own family. Patrick chuckled. Small world. You should have seen the way Jenna was raving about your work. Said she was shocked Aaron's sister built something that scaled so fast without a single VC round. He sipped his drink, casual. It's impressive, Elena. Really impressive. I didn't know what to say. My mouth formed a polite thank you, but inside, something cracked. Not because of the compliment, but because that was the first time in years anyone had said my name without tagging Aaron's behind it. Elena, Aaron's sister. Elena, the one who helps everyone. Elena, can you take the group photo? Elena, you'll understand, right? But to Patrick, I was just me. It felt like being seen, fully, for a second too long, and I wasn't ready for it. When I got back to the table, everyone was laughing at some joke Aaron had made. Something about me always working, always being the serious one. Jenna giggled. We told her to take a vacation, but she likes spreadsheets too much. Everyone laughed. Even my parents. Even Aaron. I smiled again. That same old smile. But inside, I felt stupid. like the world had been clapping for my brother's jokes while I was backstage holding up the set. And suddenly, I remembered something from years ago, a dinner when we were teenagers. I'd gotten accepted into a pre-college design program in New York. Aaron had crashed the family dinner halfway through with news that he'd won prom king. Guess which story my parents told at every holiday after that? Guess which one they forgot? After the wedding, I called a car early and left before the send-off. No one noticed. Except for Patrick. He texted me an hour later. Somehow got my number from the RSVP list. If no one at that wedding saw how extraordinary you are, that's their loss. Coffee sometime? I stared at the message, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible, but I did feel furious. Not at him, at them, at all the years I'd swallowed myself to keep their spotlight shining. Something inside me whispered, maybe you were never meant to be in the background. The next morning, my mom sent a group text to our family chat. Wasn't that the most magical wedding ever? So proud of our boy, no mention of me. Not even a thanks for coming. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. What was I going to say? Thanks for seating me at the kids' table and forgetting I built a company from scratch while you were busy ordering custom matcha candles for the gift bags. No one would have cared. I stayed silent, like I always do, except something in me had shifted, like a splinter under the skin that finally hit a nerve. That week, I got an invite to a family dinner. Aaron and Jenna wanted to host a thank you at their new loft downtown. I wasn't going to go. I told myself I was tired, busy, but the truth? I wanted to see if it had all just been in my head. If maybe, I'd imagined the distance. I wore something soft and simple. A navy dress, barely any makeup, hair tied low. Not to impress, just to be comfortable. Something I rarely allowed myself to be around them. When I arrived, the place was exactly what I expected. Industrial chic, curated coffee table books, effortlessly married vibes in every corner. Jenna greeted me with a hug that barely touched my shoulders. Aaron was pouring cocktails. He didn't look up when I walked in. Didn't even say hi. I stood there for a beat, then sat down on the edge of the couch like a guest in my own bloodline. They passed around stories about the honeymoon in Greece, about Aaron's new project at work, about Jenna's interior decorating blog. Every voice louder than the last. Mine, forgotten. Until my mother turned to me and asked, mid-bite, almost as an afterthought, "Still doing that little company of yours?" Little company. I felt my throat go dry. 8 employees, 43 clients, 2 national campaigns. But to them, it was still just something I did until I settled down. I smiled. Of course I did. Yeah, I said. Still doing it. And then Jenna added something that made me freeze. She laughed. Soft, careless. Honestly, I don't know how you do it. I mean, if I didn't have Aaron, I'd be lost. I couldn't even imagine doing it all alone. There was a pause, a sharp, suffocating pause. She didn't mean it as an insult, but it landed like one. Everyone looked down or away. No one said anything. I nodded, took a sip of wine, swallowed the silence like I'd done my whole life. But this time, it tasted like fire. That night, I walked home, past the lit-up boutiques, the valet stations, the rows of luxury cars, and I let the tears come. Not the loud, dramatic kind, the quiet ones, the ones that sting your throat and make your chest ache without a sound. Because in that moment, I finally understood. It wasn't that they didn't see me. They chose not to. The days after that dinner felt heavy, not in any obvious way. I still went to work, answered emails, took meetings, smiled when clients cracked awkward jokes on Zoom. But inside, it was like walking through wet concrete. Every movement harder than it needed to be, every breath a little slower. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. Mostly one-liners, angry and bitter at first. They didn't even notice when I left. Would they care if I disappeared? Is being useful the same as being loved? I wasn't writing to find answers. I was writing because if I didn't, I was afraid I'd disappear completely. A week later, Patrick texted again. Just a simple message. Lunch? My treat. I owe you one. The wedding was brutal. I hesitated. I didn't want to look desperate, or like I was clinging to the one person who'd seen me clearly for 2 seconds. But I said yes. We met at a quiet cafe tucked between 2 art galleries, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and handwritten menus. He was already there when I arrived, tapping away on his phone. When he looked up and smiled, it wasn't flirtatious. It was kind, present, real. We talked for over an hour. Not about my family, not even much about Bloomshift. We talked about burnout, about how leadership is lonelier than anyone admits, about what it feels like to always be in control, until you're not. He told me he'd gone through a divorce 2 years ago, said it nearly broke him. I woke up one day and realized I'd spent a decade building a life that didn't have room for me in it. That line hit something in me because I knew exactly what he meant. I'd built a life too, a career, a reputation, but I'd left myself out of it. Always working, always supporting, always performing. Never asking, never demanding, never breaking down. Not where anyone could see. Then, as we were leaving, Patrick said something that knocked the breath out of me. He paused at the sidewalk, glanced sideways, and said, "Hey, I hope this isn't weird, but Aaron never mentioned you at work, not once. I didn't even know he had a sister." I blinked. Frozen? Not once? Not even... My sister runs a company. Not even... My sister lives nearby. Not even... I have a sister. It was like being erased. Not forgotten. That would have hurt less. Erased. Deliberately. I walked home that day with a hole in my chest, like something had just been scooped out of me, and all I could think was, why? Why would Aaron? Why would my own brother? I didn't even know what the question was anymore, but I knew one thing. Something wasn't right, and I was done pretending it was. I couldn't sleep that night. Patrick's words kept circling my mind like vultures. Aaron never mentioned you. Not once. How do you process that? How do you wrap your head around the fact that your own sibling, someone you'd shared a childhood with, had erased you from their adult life? It wasn't just a slight. It was something colder, intentional. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the folder on my hard drive labeled Family. Inside, old photos, scanned birthday cards, emails from my dad with subject lines like, "Quick favor, can you edit this for me?" And a PDF I'd forgotten about, Aaron's LinkedIn profile. I'd saved it years ago, back when he asked me to help polish his resume. Back when I still thought being useful would make me feel loved. I clicked on it, scrolled. There it was, a glowing narrative about his work at a tech company, how he led their marketing pivot in 2019. Except, he didn't. I did. Bloomshift was hired to fix that entire campaign. I was the lead strategist, and yet there was no mention of me, no mention of Bloomshift. He'd taken credit, publicly, proudly. My stomach flipped. I clicked over to his real LinkedIn page. Live, updated, same story, same erasure. But what got me most wasn't the lie. It was the detail I'd never noticed before. Under volunteer work, he'd written, "Mentored my younger sister through her startup journey." I stared at the sentence. Younger. Younger? I'm 2 years older. It hit me like a punch to the ribs. Not just the lie, but the pattern. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't him forgetting me. This was reframing me, diminishing me, on purpose. I sat there, numb, as memories came flooding back. Like the time I landed my first big client and he told everyone it was because he connected me to the right people. Like when I bought my condo and he joked I should thank Mom and Dad, even though I took no money from them. Like when I offered to invest in his app idea and he laughed and said, "No offense, but your money's cute. I'm looking for serious investors." And I had smiled through all of it. Like a fool, like a trained dog. But now I wasn't smiling. I was shaking. I wanted answers, not polite ones, real ones. So I did what I swore I'd never do again. I called my mother. She picked up on the third ring, cheerful, clueless. "Sweetheart, everything okay?" No, not even close. "Mom," I said, trying to steady my voice. Why does Aaron always act like I'm an afterthought? There was a pause, then a sigh. Long, tired, heavy. "Elena, it's not like that. He needs more attention, that's all. He's always been sensitive. You're the strong one, remember?" That phrase, that curse. I almost hung up. "You think being strong means I don't get to matter?" I whispered. She went quiet, and in that silence I heard everything I'd been avoiding for years. I didn't imagine it. I wasn't too sensitive. I was the designated ghost in my own family, visible only when someone needed something. I ended the call. No goodbye, no love you, just a click. And for the first time in my life, I felt rage without guilt. I didn't plan it. Not really. I told myself I was just stopping by to drop off a charger Aaron had left at the wedding, the same charger he never texted me about. But let's be honest, I didn't care about the charger. I wanted the truth. Or a fight. Maybe both. When he opened the door, he looked surprised. Not glad. Not curious. Just confused. Like he couldn't imagine a version of reality where I showed up without being asked. Hey, you okay?" I didn't answer. I walked past him, dropped the charger on the marble island in the kitchen, then turned to face him. "Aaron," I said, steady but low, "why do you lie about me?" He blinked. "What?" "I saw your LinkedIn," I said. "You called me your younger sister. You said you mentored me. You took credit for a campaign my team built from scratch. You don't even tell people I exist, not your coworkers, not your friends. Why?" He opened his mouth, closed it, shrugged, laughed like it was ridiculous. "You're being dramatic." Wrong answer. "No," I said, taking a step forward, voice rising. "I'm being honest, which is something you've never been with me." His jaw tensed. He poured himself a drink, because of course he did. "You always make everything about you, Elena," he muttered. "You're obsessed with being seen as the victim." I stared at him, like I was seeing a stranger, a version of my brother I'd ignored for years. because I needed to believe we had something real. But this wasn't real. You stole my work. You erased me from your life. And you made me out to be the selfish one? He scoffed. Come on, you've always had everything under control. You're the smart one, the one who makes it happen. Mom and Dad never worried about you. There it was, the core of it. He didn't see me as someone to celebrate. He saw me as someone who didn't need to be. And because of that, I'd never been allowed to be anything else. Not loved, not fragile, not worthy of care, just respect from a distance. But I didn't want distance anymore. You know what hurts the most? I said, quieter now. Not the lies, not even the silence. It's the fact that you knew I'd take it, that I'd smile through it, that I wouldn't make a scene, because that's my role, right? The good daughter, the background sister. He didn't say a word, just stared. Guilty, but not apologetic. And that was the final nail. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, paused. You can keep telling your stories, Aaron, but I'm done being written out of them. And then I left. No tears, no yelling, just the sound of a door closing. Not in anger, but in finality. The strange thing about burning a bridge is how quiet it is afterward. There's no cheering, no closure music, just space. Wide, aching space. I didn't hear from Aaron. Not a call, not a text, not even a passive-aggressive meme like he used to send when we fought. And my parents? They went radio silent too. I guess when you stop performing your assigned role, people don't know where to place you anymore. And maybe that's the point. The first week was hard. I kept picking up my phone, thinking, maybe I should explain. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I hurt him too. But every time I tried to type something, my hands shook. Because deep down, I wasn't looking for a resolution. I was looking for permission to feel what I felt. To not be the understanding one. To not rush to repair what someone else broke. So instead, I waited, in the quiet, in the discomfort. And then, I started noticing something I hadn't in years. Me. Not the version of me reflected back in someone else's approval. Not the filtered, likable, tidy Elena I curated for clients and relatives. Just me. The woman who drinks coffee in silence and likes the rain more than the sun. The woman who built a company from nothing and still second-guesses herself before sending invoices. The woman who has been holding her breath for 3 decades, waiting to be chosen, when she was already enough. I started journaling again, but not to vent this time. To listen. I wrote things like, I'm allowed to be angry. My silence is not proof of strength. It's proof of survival. I don't have to earn my place in a family I was born into. I went for long walks without my phone. I let the notifications pile up. I let the noise fade. And slowly, the pain shifted. Not gone, but different. Like scar tissue. Not as raw, but a reminder of where I'd been wounded. One morning, I got a message from Patrick. Thinking of you. How's your heart? I didn't know how to answer that, but I told him the truth. It's bruised, but it's mine again. He sent back a simple heart emoji. No pressure, no expectations, just space. And God, I didn't realize how badly I'd needed space from people who didn't try to shape me, but simply saw me. It was a Tuesday when I did something I never thought I would. I closed my laptop at noon. Not for a client call, not for an errand, not because someone needed me, just because I wanted air. And I walked through the city, past the places I used to rush through, always with somewhere else to be, someone else to impress. This time, I slowed down. I stopped in a bookstore. I bought a poetry collection I didn't recognize. And then I sat in the park, opened it to a random page, and read a line that stopped me cold. You do not owe the fire your whole body, just because it kept you warm once. I sat there, holding that page like it was a lifeline, because that's exactly what it felt like being in my family. Like I kept feeding pieces of myself into the flames just to stay visible, just to stay needed, just to not be left behind. A few days later, I got an email from Jenna. It was short. Hey, Elena, hope you're well. Aaron told me you two had a falling out. Just wanted to say I think your work is amazing, and I'm sorry if anything I said came off wrong at the wedding. I didn't realize. Take care. That was it. No real apology. No acknowledgement of the years. Just guilt in a clean font. And for the first time, I didn't feel obligated to respond. I didn't owe her closure. I didn't owe anyone a performance anymore. I archived it. No rage, no reply, just clarity. In therapy, I told my counselor, I used to think forgiveness meant going back, but now I think it just means letting it stop defining me. She nodded and said, That's what boundaries are. Not punishment, just protection. I wrote that down, read it back to myself at 2 a.m. It became a mantra. This isn't revenge. This is recovery. 1 month later, I was invited to speak on a panel for women founders. I almost said no. The idea of standing up there, telling my story, it felt vulnerable. But then I remembered. I have a voice. I've always had a voice. I just wasn't taught to believe it mattered unless it helped someone else. So I went. And when it was my turn to speak, I didn't talk about success or strategy. I talked about invisibility, about being overlooked, erased, rewritten, and about rewriting myself back into the story. When I finished, the room was quiet for a beat, and then applause. Not for being impressive, but for being honest. For being me. That night, I stood in my kitchen with the windows open, wind spilling in, barefoot on cool tile. No phone in hand, no makeup on, no armor. And I whispered aloud, I choose me. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was enough. I was enough. It's been 6 months. I haven't spoken to Aaron. My parents send the occasional holiday text, short, polite, hollow. We've all silently agreed to a kind of emotional ceasefire. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I no longer walk into rooms trying to earn my place. I don't shrink when someone interrupts me. I don't smile to make others comfortable while I'm breaking inside. I still have my business, still lead meetings, but now I also rest. I say no more often. And when I say yes, it's because I want to. Last week, I ran into an old friend from high school. She told me I seemed different. Lighter, she said. Like you're not carrying other people's weight anymore. And I smiled. A real smile. The kind that starts in your gut, not your face. Because she was right. I've let go of the performance, of trying to be palatable, of dimming myself just to avoid making others uncomfortable. And here's the part I didn't expect. In choosing myself, I've started attracting people who see me, really see me, without needing an explanation or a resume or a softened edge. I've found friendships that feel like breath, not burden. I've had conversations that don't end with, "You're so strong," but with, "You're allowed to fall apart sometimes, too." And as for love, I'm not chasing it anymore because I'm finally giving myself the kind I used to beg for. Gentle, steady, unconditional. Some nights, I still grieve what could have been. A brother who showed up. A mother who asked how I was before asking for help. A family that saw me as more than just the strong one. But grief isn't a sign of weakness. It's just evidence that I cared. And healing isn't loud. It's not fireworks or viral quotes. Sometimes it's as quiet as washing your face and not criticizing your reflection. Sometimes it's turning off your phone and watching the sky fade into darkness, knowing the sun will return, and so will you. So if you've ever felt like the extra in someone else's movie, if you've been the dependable one, the forgotten one, the one who never got a seat at the front, let me tell you what I had to learn the hard way. You don't need their permission to take up space. You never did. You were never invisible. They just refused to look. But now you see you, and that's where everything begins.